To order for April 24th. Before we proceed with the roll call, I'd like to mention Laura is now a member of the board and welcome her here. We're very happy to have you. And
Thank you very much.
look forward to your input to the board. Adrian, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hogan, Mr. Bush.
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan, Mr. Driver.
Here.
Mr. Masters.
Here.
Ms. Metcalf.
Here.
Okay, all the members of the board had an opportunity to review the minutes from the March 6th meeting. Any comments, additions, deletions, changes required? Can I get a motion that we accept the minutes as they're written?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved as written. Okay, we've got several issues before us today concerning the comp plan. First one being review of the conservation element, which we've kind of gone over ad nauseum in the past. What I'd like to do is start on my right down here with David, and then just come on down the table. And if there's anything in your review of these that you find doesn't fit what we did in the past, bring it up and we'll discuss it with Laura.
Well, I can't say that it doesn't fit, but I did have a couple of, I marked a couple of places.
Okay, well, that's
Number
good.
one, how do we define the canal? Where is that at? What is the boundaries of it?
What do you mean by the boundaries of the
Well,
canal?
there was a point in here that talked about, okay, no new point sources shall be permitted
What
to
are you referring
discharge
to? David,
into,
what are you referring to?
into Mexico Beach Canal.
What item are you referring to?
Oh, 631. And I'm assuming Salt Creek is a creek that runs into the canal that winds around through. Okay, so
Yes.
that pretty much, but I just didn't know what is considered the canal? Where does it stop?
How far back does it go?
Yeah.
I think it probably goes all the way down to where it exits out of, by Toucans. You know, Salt Creek's part of that, but I mean, you can consider that part of the canal also. I mean, I've never heard anybody discuss what actually entails. Where does the canal stop? Where does Salt Creek start?
Well, I just wasn't familiar with the discharge thing about that.
Well, they are contiguous bodies of water. What's that basically saying is you can't discharge waste or whatever in the canal unless it's been
Right.
treated.
Right, but I didn't realize that Salt Creek was what it was called, that route?
Contiguous with the canal.
Went into, okay.
But
So-
that's a good point, and if the LDRs doesn't already define the starting point and stopping part of the canal, we certainly can include that in.
Well, that's
in the
probably a
future.
good point,
The
Laura. Go ahead and make a note of that.
And the next thing that I ran across was, I didn't quite understand, policy 647, planting of invasive plant species. Is there a list of that, or?
There is there should be a list in the LDRs, and if there's.
There is.
There
Yeah.
is.
So there is a list of that? Okay.
Mhm.
And then finally, policy 648. This is a issue that I had for myself, was I talked to Mel off record a while back about hardwood trees. Now, when we say new development, that means not enhancing, because in this situation, in my particular situation, if I want to put a front porch on my house, I'm going to have to cut down 3 very big oak trees. And I wasn't quite sure what new development meant right here.
Wouldn't that be considered a footprint of the house anyway?
Usually, that's another good point. You just need to I need to make sure that's defined in the LDRs, what new development is. Do you know, well, I'll check it.
Okay.
To see if,
Thank
I
you.
don't have a copy of the LDRs with me, but I can certainly
Okay.
look at
I
that.
have one if you'd like it.
And that was it for me.
Okay, let her, give her an opportunity.
Good comments.
Barb, you got a copy of the comp plan also? Okay.
I can look at this so it out.
It's just divided into articles, that's all.
Yeah, let me look at that and I can, instead of taking up the time right now.
Okay, Laura, I realize you haven't been here for our prior conversations, but is there anything in here that just jumps out at you as
There was
not
a-
being right or something?
There was a couple of things. I have had an opportunity to read this over, and although it's new to me, I did have a question on policy 6.2.11, number A and B. They seem to me, with the exception of a word or two, to be exactly the same. I was just wondering why they couldn't be one instead of two separate in case anyone got confused by that.
Certainly, and that's a good question. The first one is talking about avoidance. So the first priority would be to avoid a wetland altogether, to not even touch it, breach it, fill it. And then if you have to impact the wetland, then the second part B would be to do that at the minimal impact possible.
Okay, so you felt that it should be separate?
Yep.
The only other one that I had was number 6.3.7, and I didn't understand why, although, again, being new to all of this, that something of that importance or lack of importance would need to go in front of city council and take the time necessary to be scheduled as such.
If you'd attended several of our meetings here, where we have people coming in requesting for permission to build docks and stuff like that, because of the size of the canal and Salt Creek, in some areas, if you add on to an existing dock or build a dock, it impacts on your neighbors and their ability to use their dock.
Okay, so they don't have just a definite space in front of them?
Well, they
That
do,
is-
but if you've got X amount of space you can use, and you've got a slip you can back your boat or pull your boat into, you need to have room to be able to get it in there. You just can't slide it in sideways.
Okay, so they could impede, or you could.
Yeah,
impede.
so they want to make sure that it's not impeding anybody else's use of facilities in that area.
I think the other thing too is that there's regulations that say if the canal's 100 feet wide, you can't go more than 25 feet out into the canal. So we want to make sure that no one's taking up more of the canal than they should, so it allows boat
I think the
passage.
standard is 20 feet, if I remember correctly, or something like that.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
20 feet.
I thought it was 25%. 25%, I think, is what it said.
Yeah.
25%.
But I've noticed up here on the far side of the canal, there's a few places where there's no homes over there. It's just open. So the people on the house side, can they go out to 50%?
No.
No.
So it doesn't matter. They got 25% of the canal, period. Doesn't matter.
Right.
If anything's across from them. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I understand.
Bill?
I'm just wondering, should we add planning and zoning to that? I guess if the city council approved it, then we have a look at it. Must be approved by zoning and city council.
That's a policy decision. I'm pretty sure this is an existing policy, I'm just trying to locate it, but I don't think I created that one, that was something
Okay,
that was
it's
already in
6.3.7.
there. Yeah,
That's the way it's set up now.
yeah, so it's
You know, it
currently,
goes through us anyway.
I don't see that it went that far. It's not that number.
Some of this has been moved from future land use, so
that's right.
it may show
It's-
up under
you know,
future land use.
It's just semantics. I mean, for it to get to the city council, it theoretically should go through us anyway, so.
That's up to you if you want me to include the planning commission. You're right, it might not have been moved from somewhere in the conservation element, it might have been in the future land use, but it was somewhere. And this is how it was stated. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the way it is, but
That's fine.
How about other members of the board? I mean, it remains to be seen. We're definitely going to act on it before the council will, so.
Right.
Well, Bill, you were the one that,
I'm fine with it.
okay.
I think we're covered.
Okay, what else have you got?
I have a question. Somewhere in 6.3, I'm not sure where it is, it talks about there's not to be any building on the lots 20 feet, within 20 feet of the,
Canal shoreline.
yes. There's been recent building along there, people have been repairing or installing those, I call them berms,
Bulkheads.
bulkheads, thank you. How do they get away with that then? Because it's right, that's within 20 feet of the canal.
This is proposed, so it's not adopted yet.
So we don't have any control right now over that?
I don't know if your LDRs
At the present time, Royce goes through all the proper procedures to ensure the setbacks, and she has a little thing to check off about compliance with what you're talking about.
Okay, so is the dock areas where people have their docks and their boat houses, does their land start on the inside of that? I mean,
Are you talking about on the east side of the canal, or?
let me think.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's, if you read down further, Lisa and I hear what you're saying, it says, except for a cleared corridor, which I define as a dock area, a cleared corridor, not natural, 20 feet from a natural, from a distance of 20 feet from a canal shoreline. I don't consider the canal with, bulkheads on the side as a shoreline. It's more of a cleared area, cleared corridor, and it's 15 feet there. So you can get 5 feet closer. Because otherwise the city would be in violation because you have to have the bulkheads to keep the canal where it is. Everybody down there would be in violation. You can't have a canal without bulkheads.
So you do have a policy currently in the conservation element that talks about the canal shoreline, and it says no development or construction activity shall be permitted within 15 feet of the canal shoreline. Within this restricted area, all natural shoreline vegetation shall be preserved for a distance of 20 feet landward from the mean high tide line, except for a cleared corridor not to exceed 15 feet in width. So that's on the books today.
so, okay, so basically, I don't even see how that applies because y'all are saying shoreline and mean high water line, and that doesn't apply to the canal. Canal doesn't have a shoreline unless you count where the bulkheads are.
Right. I consider the shoreline like on the other side of the bridge on 36th Street or 35th, the wooden bridge.
Yeah, there is no wall there at all. It's just comes right down into the water. And that would be to me a shoreline.
Okay.
Should it say bulkhead instead of shoreline?
No, I don't think so, because we're talking two different things. If you're using the term synonymously, then the city is in violation and everybody is in violation. And I think shoreline is different than constructed seawalls. I don't know. I mean, to me, a shoreline is what you have in the Gulf.
Sure.
If you put a seawall up, I don't think that's a shoreline.
Just define them both.
Well, if you leave all vegetation 20 or 15 feet or 20 feet from the seawall, nobody's going to be able to get access to their dock or the area down there where they live.
Well, except for the 15-foot,
10 foot.
well, It's not to exceed 15 feet for the sole purpose of, to provide.
Access to water. Yeah, I guess 10 foot was the beach. There's, back in there, it talks about 10-foot access to
So
the
the
beach.
purpose of these vegetative buffers is to keep pollutants from fertilizer or whatever else you're using from entering into the water body. And so that vegetative buffer filters a lot of those pollutants before it goes into
Mhm.
the water body. That's the reason these types of policies are written that way.
Yeah, and that's, you're not gonna have that runoff where you have a seawall, which is higher than the grass or whatever you've got there. Because seawalls are normally at least 6 inches or so taller than the land they're holding back. So you're not gonna have that runoff where you have a seawall.
All of those-
Well, the water goes
flow
somewhere.
Right down the
Yeah.
seawall.
It doesn't stay and flood the yard, it usually drains down.
But stating it's got to have a vegetative buffer also prevents anybody from building a house that extends,
20 feet into the buffer,
right,
right.
okay.
To answer another question you had, I could pull it up on the LDR, but you can't see it because the TV's not pointing your way. But it says that when it comes to the construction installation of seawalls, docks, boathouses, boat lifts, any construction in or around the canal, the development order has to go for the city council before we, the staff, can approve it. It doesn't say anything about P and Z, so right now, the comp plan is consistent. But if you want to make a recommendation to put P and Z in, just one more step.
Didn't
I don't think
y'all
it's necessary.
have to, approve Zach Childs over there behind Waterside? His, boat dock?
Yeah, went through the regular permit process.
No.
That's correct, we did. So we probably should be added on then.
To add P and Z,
Yeah, that is correct, and we did act on that like about 6 weeks ago.
Mhm.
is that, you want me to add that then?
Please. Do you have anything else, Lisa?
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't have anything either, so we're generally happy then, other than the changes we've made or the answers we've gotten, generally happy with what we have
I
here.
had a couple.
Okay.
6.2.6, last sentence. Sandy Beach shall define as area seaward of the coastal construction line or Highway 98, whichever provides greater protection. And this talks about the protection of the white sandy beaches, usage of materials in site development, road construction, or whatever. So I'm envisioning the majority of the streets, of course, that are on the south side of 98. There's streets there, there's development, there's construction. So how can you preserve the white sands when you're using all normal materials from 98, south of 98? And basically what you're saying is you probably shouldn't be building anything south of 98.
No, this is primarily, has to do with anything that would maybe erode, like bringing in Georgia red clay soil and putting it on the site.
Which the city did when we dug sewers. We came back in and put
That
Georgia
would
red clay
erode down.
over the sewers on top.
South of 98.
Yep. So I just didn't want to get something in here that we can't live with if it gets tougher down the
Sure.
road. I mean, I like what they're trying to
It seems to
redo
me
here.
as though we ought to keep this and then hold the city's feet to the fire and make sure that they follow this.
Well,
I mean, it's
it's,
approved.
yeah, it isn't just the city, it's anybody that's
Right.
working down there.
Well, this is something that came up way back in the day when I was working for Bay County and they were bringing in the red Georgia clay soil down
Right.
into the Panama City Beach area.
To stabilize the
It
soil.
was eroding
Sure.
into the white sand.
I mean, this doesn't really apply on the dedicated beach area, but it would down there, west
On
of
the west
Toucans.
It's up
Could
to
you
you.
reword it to
It's
just simply say to preserve the white sand? I mean, obviously, if they've got to use clay for construction, then they could overlay it
Right.
with something to prevent it from spreading.
Certainly, they should put up the protection silt catching things if we're doing
Well, I
something.
think that's required by federal
Yeah,
regulations. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be in here. It's
In the end, I'd rather be stronger than weaker as far as protecting the beach.
How about changing strictly prohibited to discouraged?
certainly, you can certainly say that, but then it doesn't provide any
Protection.
measure for you
Right.
to stop them. It's just a feel-good policy.
I mean, I would prefer to provide greater protection than less. So my feeling is that I like it the way it is. Bill?
Well, I've lived, if this is old language or new language?
This is new,
I think it's new. I don't think
Okay.
it's currently. A policy.
Have you got a copy of the markup there, or?
Well, what this might do is make developers think a little bit about bringing in the Georgia clay and what are the other alternatives to preparing construction sites. I don't know, it's a big, it's just how sticky do you want to get?
So currently, the policy states at minimum land clearing or development activities which cause direct soil erosion or sedimentation of water bodies. That doesn't really address the beach, though. I don't think it's in there currently. I think it's something I introduced. I don't see it.
So it comes down to, do we want to leave it in, or do we want to take it out?
Right.
Since it is a new policy.
Yeah.
Leave it in. The more protection you have, the better off we're gonna be down the road.
David? David, leave it in or take it out?
I'm not an engineer, but
Leave it in or take it out?
could they have used concrete? You said they used clay at one point. Could they have used concrete instead?
Could go either way.
Go one way or the other.
Leave it in.
Laura? Okay, no,
Or is
Leave it
we're
in?
good, leave it in then.
Sorry.
Okay, Bill?
Let's see, next one, 6.2.7, has kind of been going around. What about the ATVs that are going on the roads or on the beach that they're being used for putting up beach chairs and taking down beach chairs?
Do they have to be approved by the police chief? Anything that drives on the beach?
Well, we just passed the beach vendor ordinance, and the vendor that we're talking about from the old government, you're not supposed to use ATVs on the beach before 7 a.m. and after 7 p.m. In other words, don't make it unsafe for the public on the beach. But they're perfectly fine for being out there before 7 a.m.
Do they have to get approval by the city? By the
The chief of police is the ultimate go-to person on that, but in the beach vendor ordinance, you can get the approval of the city administrator for emergency situations outside of those hours.
Okay, so should it say,
No motor vehicles are allowed on the beach.
with exception to work vehicles approved by the chief of police or city administrator?
It probably would be that.
Yes.
That sounds
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm on 6.4.3. Just need a definition, new word of the day, silvicultural uses.
Yeah, silviculture uses, that is the business that St. Joe Paper Company was in before they became a development company. They would harvest trees, and harvesting trees is silviculture.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Instead
would do
of, instead
what?
of agriculture, it's called silviculture.
They would
So
do-
I had the same question. I tried looking it up in the dictionary and couldn't find it. So can we
Silviculture.
put it in much more understandable terms?
Well, it is a technical term, and it's what is generally used for the harvesting of trees.
Now, again, what is the definition of it? What,
The silviculture?
Yeah.
It's the harvesting of trees. Instead of an agriculture use, which is generally
okay,
food products, silviculture is trees.
okay.
Okay. And then in 6.4.7, I think we covered that. Those are in the LDR. Same question there. That was the bad plants that we don't want. That's all I had.
Somewhere in the, let me see if I can find it in here. Okay, saw 6.4.3. I don't have a problem with that anymore. I think I'm good. And Lisa, do you have anything more?
No.
Okay. I think we can go ahead with the changes we suggested on that, Alara. Okay, review of the recreation and open space element. The way I like to handle this is if you have any comments in general on what you've done, make them, and then we will take each objective one at a time through the board and through the audience, and we finish with that objective, we'll move on to the next objective.
Yeah, so the first thing that kind of popped out at me when I was looking at this element was the facility type level of service standards that you see on the first page that are stricken out. This was very common, 10, 15, 20 years ago for local governments to adopt these standards. I think there was a model that some sort of national base recreation association had put together. But it's not a one-size-fits-all, and
Right.
many places we're using it as a one-size-fits-all.
Mhm.
And it's not a requirement of the state for you to have these level of service standards. And I feel that a smaller community like this, it becomes a financial burden to have to supply shuffleboards and horseshoe pits and baseball diamonds. So that's why they're stricken. And certainly you can provide those if you want to. It's not saying you can't provide those. It's just not telling you have to provide those and these were all set up per population. So instead of having the facility level of service standards, I did keep the acreage level of service standards by population. And you are a smaller jurisdiction. I think you've got maybe 1,300 people. So on the second page at the top, you'll see the and maybe you'll see the level of service standards by park, but I'm thinking that even now that I'm just looking at this, maybe the waterfront park should be a waterfront access point and have a certain number that you want to have per population. Because I'm trying to think, you could probably consider the waterfront park that you've just created in that St. Joe property as a waterfront park because it has a dock to the canal, a boat ramp to the canal.
Which one are you?
The boat ramp on the west side, on the north side of 98, where you're putting in the new
Okay,
structure.
okay.
You could certainly count that as a waterfront park.
But it's privately owned.
It doesn't have to be publicly owned to count. So do you have another waterfront park? Technically-
Sunset Park,
And then the whole beachfront on the east
Mount
end.
Parkway.
and the canal, the canal
Yeah.
park where the pavilion is.
So you probably meet that already then, if you're only requiring an acre and you've got, so you'll times that, so you need 2-point-something acres to satisfy the level of service. You probably have that.
So the public beach listed as 8th Street to Gulf County line, that's not considered a park.
Why not?
I just
It's
saw,
not-
when I read it, I looked at it,
Yeah, are you, I mean, it's owned by the state, right? State DOT?
That's
No.
a good bit of that.
Yeah.
The state owns some areas closer to the Gulf County line.
Okay. Well, do you consider it a park?
No, it's just
Yeah.
dedicated beach is all I've ever heard.
Well, it's
it considered.
recreational facilities. You're accessing the water.
Well, you use
Do you know how many acres it is?
Off the top of my head.
No. Okay.
Does,
So,
calling it a park though, does that require more level of care than?
Yeah, that was my question.
no.
'Cause-
Whatever you define a park as, it's your
Because
definition.
when you look back to our initial meeting on things that we're going to emphasize, beach access and maintaining that dedicated beach were some really important things to us. So by designating it as a park, is that going to make it?
It wouldn't hurt you, you don't have to, but it wouldn't hurt you, it would help you, you know, you can call those acres park space and say, we have all these acres of park space in Mexico Beach.
And then is somebody likely to come forward and say, well, we got this big park, but we've got no bathroom facilities or any other kind of facilities?
You don't have to, it's really a local decision on how you want to handle that. You know, some communities have miles and miles of trails with no bathrooms, that's recreation space.
So we have woods.
Yeah, but you got,
Yeah, it seems like you'd be a little bit more protected if you left it as a conservation area or whatever, without development. If it's a park, then are we gonna put a water slide down on the beach, or, you know, what are we gonna do
Yeah.
there? Where if it's a natural resource or natural area,
Well,
for it to
there's-
remain the way it is.
Near my house, and I live in unincorporated Bay County, there's a park at the end of the street, and it's a bayfront park, and only half of it's developed. The other half is left in a natural state. There's not even a walking trail through it. So they can count the whole thing as a park. There's no bathrooms down there. It's just there's a child's playground. It's up to you on how you want to define.
what's the downside of calling it a conservation area?
There isn't. You can still call it a park even if you designate it conservation on your future land use element, on your future land use map. You can, the state doesn't give really any oversight on the comprehensive plan recreation and open space element. It just says you have to have one. It doesn't tell you what you have to have in it. It just says you have to have one. So it's really totally up to you on how you want to address some of these issues. It's really just policy decisions that you're grappling with.
It sounds to me like the point you brought up about calling it a park would be beneficial to the city, because you can say, we got this parkland. And-
Especially if it's under public ownership.
And we've got a deed to it. The only part we don't is from the 8th Street Canal to about 25th Street or so. But the rest of it is zone preservation. So we really couldn't put anything there.
That's okay.
Change the zone. And we like it that way.
It would be a passive park.
Right.
You can walk through it. That's exercise, that's recreation.
But the-
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just for what we have down here, backing up, it says waterfront park, 1 acre per 5,000. We don't have 5,000 population, so technically we don't even need one.
I think you have, I thought you had 1,300. Don't you have 13?
Well,
Per
full-
5,000.
Right,
we
so
have
you would
13.
just
Yeah, well, I
times that
think-
by, you would just times it by, you know, you would multiply
Use
it
your
out.
algebra.
Yeah.
One, X is to one.
So if you have 10,000 population, you should have 2 acres.
Right, but we don't have 5,000. I'm looking at waterfront park.
You don't have 5,000 people in Mexico Beach?
No,
No.
we have 1,000.
Oh, you're right.
So we don't even need it.
1164, I think it is.
Under this, we wouldn't even have to have a waterfront park. The way it's written.
Well, you would, you would divide it out, so you would figure
So,
out
so you-
how many point
a
acres.
fifth
you
of
would have.
that, we'd need a fifth of an acre
Right.
of a waterfront
Which isn't
park,
very much,
is what you're saying.
right.
But it doesn't really say that you have to divide it out. It just says 1 acre per 5,000.
That's the standard,
Okay.
how we look at it.
Whichever designation, park or conservation land gives the most protection, I think is the one you should make it. We used to have a park, a city park on the beachfront. This was years and years ago. There used to be an 8th Street City Park where Subway is. The city sold the park to Subway. There were many more parks in the city years ago than we have now. So whichever one is more likely to stay in preservation shape is the way you should go. Because obviously, the city does not have an objection to selling a city park, since
Interesting.
they've done it in the past.
I just think, as I said earlier, there's just something about calling that area a park to me that just doesn't sit right, but a conservation district, I mean, that's something that, you know, kind of like, you don't touch that. You don't come anywhere near that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's, I mean, but to address her point, even if the city decides to sell a conservation land use category, it doesn't really, you know, they can still sell it, and they can still, whoever buys it, change the land use and do whatever the land use will allow them to do.
Well, the area from 8th Street to the eastern border of the beach, we got a grant years ago to purchase that property. And so we have to file a form every other year with the state and how much improvements we've made to the walkovers and that sort of thing, and the maintenance on it. So we couldn't sell that if we wanted to.
Yeah.
It's tied up with the state.
Good.
That's why it's called a dedicated beach. It's always going to be that.
So your conservation feature land use category allows for recreational activities such as those relating to beach activities, beach renourishment, dune crossover boardwalks, and active beach gulfront recreational activities that do not disturb the dunes.
Perfect.
That's conservation category.
Is park defined?
Park?
Yes.
I don't know if it's in the LDRs. I apologize, I really haven't studied the LDRs that much because I've been focusing on the
Okay.
plan. So I know you have definitions in there, but I'm not certain what all is defined.
Okay.
But the size of the park is defined here in the policy. Community park shall be defined as a park exceeding 2 acres in size. Neighborhood park shall be defined as 1/2 acre to 1 acre in size. Waterfront parks are defined as those parks with access to a water body or land that has direct access to a canal or the Gulf of Mexico.
That kind of rolls into my next one that I had, which is 7.1.3, that talks about 50 residential units as a phased development. That's why I was asking.
Let's kind of conclude what we're talking about here. I mean, do we want to consider making that a park or just leave it a conservation district?
I say
Sandy Beach?
park.
Okay, it's one park. Well,
And so to clear it up, we're asking what piece of land, a single piece of land, or,
A strip of land, we're talking about a strip park, basically is what we're talking about.
so we're talking about
On
the
the map.
beachfront?
Talking about the dedicated beach becoming a park.
You already called the canal park. I mean, it seems to me that the beach would be the same thing, beach park.
You're just wondering if you should change the map designation, what
Yeah.
it's called on the map.
And on the map, it's park?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking
Beachfront.
about this area on the east end.
Yeah, from 8th Street down to 386.
Yep.
So that says preservation right now, so I think we decided to call the conservation section the preservation section, so the language I just read to you would apply to that.
I think that works, preservation.
And it looks like this is preservation and this is preservation.
And is it defined enough to see where the pavilion is? Which would be on the west side of the
The
canal?
canal.
Is it this piece right
No.
here?
No, before you get to the bridge,
Oh,
north-south area.
Looks like
that's
it's
in this
blue.
blue tourist residential category, right?
Yeah, it's also preservation area. That's kind of where the pavilion is.
And the city owns that property?
That's correct.
I think that, go back to it. It was Development within this district is restricted to that which is created to preserve, enhance, or mitigate previous development or natural hazard activities which have degraded the natural state. All city-owned access to beach dunes and beach areas shall be preserved without exception. So you are allowed to have dune crossover, boardwalks, and active beachfront recreational activities that do not disturb the dunes.
Yeah, I think that's a good definition.
Okay, so you'd like to see it changed to park, is that correct, David?
Yeah, I mean, it just, got Canal Park, it just seems to fit to me.
You just want to call it a park, not necessarily change the land use, right? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
that's, my point was, is there a written definition of a park?
I'll have to look in your LDRs. There aren't any definitions in the plan.
I just did a search on the LDR, which I have capable on this thing, and there's no definition of a park. There's a public lands.
Mel, how do we stand on park land now, according to population? Are we,
Oh, well exceeded.
say-
Well
I would
exceeded.
okay, so then it would not be a current benefit to the city if you changed it to park. I mean, it's not like we're on the edge.
Right.
Okay.
If you change it to a park, then there's some of the city council who are gonna wanna start putting playground equipment for both children and adults on it. They have a tendency to do that.
Okay, Laura, you got one for a park, how are you?
You know, I don't know enough about it to really, it doesn't really, to me, one word versus another word, I don't,
Preservation.
Okay, 2-to-1 preservation then. But how about changing it from public beach, 8th Street to Gulf County line to dedicated public beach?
I'm sorry, are we talking about,
We're talking about 721,
721, identified public access recreation sites?
7216, which is what we're talking about, what we've been talking about.
I'm sorry, I have a 721. Oh, number 6, okay,
Yeah,
got
number
it.
6.
Public beach?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and changing that to dedicated public beach, just to
Okay.
give it some more strength.
And also on 3, the Highway 98 boat launch has been sold, so we could cross that off.
Okay.
and I was wondering why Parker Park is not on here anywhere.
We're what?
Parker Park?
Yeah,
It's not listed.
Probably hadn't bought it yet.
Do you know how many acres it is?
No.
Off the top of my head,
3?
no, but somebody should look up for
Parker Park,
Yeah, Parker Park.
5, really?
Including the water?
okay.
Okay.
I thought it was more than that towards the back. No, it's only 5? It's only 5?
So we'll call it Community Parks, Parker Park.
Yep.
You adding that, what is the new number 7? and
I
putting
would
each one
probably
down?
add it as number 10 and move number 10 down, just to keep all the community parks together.
Mhm.
Okay,
Good.
it. Number 4,
Yep.
we most commonly call that municipal park.
The one that
Is
says,
this Paradise Park?
here it is.
you want me
That's
to
the-
change it?
That's the city hall?
That's
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Municipal
Yeah.
park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys did a real good job on that park. It looks good, the kids. love it.
Yeah, I get lots of comments on
Which
it.
one?
Parker Park is 5.523.
Okay.
I would have never thought that. Okay, so the change that we're looking at then is 4, is changing community to municipal, changing 6 to dedicated public beach, and adding a new 10, Parker Park, and then moving the current 10 down to 11, is that correct?
Just to be sure, number 4, you were changing Paradise Park to Municipal Park.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Oh,
And you're taking out Highway 98 out of number 3?
Yes. So what is the name of that one, the new boat? ramp where the St. Joe property is? Has that got a name to it?
That's a good point. We should probably name that.
Should I put that under number 3?
That would make sense, yes, ma'am.
So,
They got Highway 98 put in. I don't know, it's owned by the St. Joe Company, but we lease it.
Uh-huh.
We got a 20-year lease.
okay.
I'm
St.
not
Joe
sure
Boat
if
Ramp?
What's that?
St. Joe Boat Ramp?
East boat ramp?
Isn't that
Or
37th
west
Street,
boat ramp?
technically?
West End.
Doesn't it come through from the other side? You could argue, I mean, where's the 37th Street boat launch?
That was the one that the city gave away
Tranquil Harbor.
to Tranquil Harbor.
Oh, I thought that was Highway 98. So maybe we cross off
What's-
37th and leave
what's-
Highway 98, which is the big one.
What's the Highway 90, okay,
Yeah, I'm confused.
Highway 98, which one is that? There's no launch on Highway 98.
There was,
There what?
Where, next to Marquard's?
no,
There's
right
a-
at the end of the Pierce
Middle
Street.
of Tranquil Harbor. 37th Street. Right across from the express lane.
If you went right
In
up to
between
Pier
the
Road and
buildings.
kept going straight, you'd run right into it, almost. Across from Tommy T's.
It's between
Kinda
the two
right there.
buildings there.
Says use other ramp, there's a sign out in front of it. That used to be the original boat ramp before we had the new one.
Before those condos went up.
Yep.
okay.
So I guess we should define those better.
Where's Miramar?
Miramar's right by the bridge.
That's over
On the
near
way in.
Guilford's, where
Yes.
Guilford's
Yep.
Boat City? Okay.
Yep.
So should it say 37th Street?
Is the Pier Park 37th Street?
The Pier Park is 37th Street.
Yeah, so that,
There's no
that,
boat ramp there.
right, so that should be crossed off, 37th Street, and leave Highway 98. We need
Okay.
to name the boat ramp park, I
You
guess.
can just keep it Highway 98 until you name
Yeah,
it.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So there's only 2 left there. Oh, sorry, 3 left there.
Boat launches, there'll be 2.
2 left there, 2 left there. Okay.
Highway 98 and Miramar.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we got down in the weeds on those, didn't we?
Well, that's good.
I don't even know where we stopped at here.
I think I was going through mine and that was all I had. Came out real good.
Okay, I got one question. It's the only one I had. Let me see if I can find it here. The city shall, okay, 7.34.5, which is page 74. The city shall seek state, federal grant funds to construct picnic areas and dune crossover walks at public beachfront parking areas. We really want picnic areas? Do we have enough room for picnic areas?
That's up to you all to stay. It's currently the language that's there, so if you want to have it removed, we can strike
I mean,
it.
I can't imagine
No, I don't.
anywhere in there where you'd have room to even put a picnic area,
Picnic table.
construct one.
We already have one at the El Governor, right?
Right? Sunset. Yeah.
But where else would you have room to put one?
I can't think of any place.
I think that should be, construct dune crossover, yes.
Okay.
but Picnic areas, I think, should be deleted.
Yeah.
And when it comes to beachfront parking areas, we don't really have a designated beachfront parking area except on 37th Street.
Right.
The rest of it's just the street people park on.
Right.
So all that, the parking that I see on 98 Mel, that, yeah, those access points, that's, who owns it? How wide is that access point?
Which access point are we talking
Well,
about?
I
The end
mean,
of the streets? Are you talking?
I see a lot of them up and down 98 that you can walk across to the beach.
Right.
And I see people parking in there.
You're not allowed, if you're talking about the dedicated beach, you're not allowed to park on the north side of 98. You can only park on the south side of 98.
Right,
And you're just parking on the right-of-way is what you're doing.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, my question was, are they parking on private property or is that city property or
That's
those
State,
DOT.
state right away.
state right of way? Okay.
So you can't park on the north side?
No,
Nope.
It's supposed to.
no.
I'm not aware of a regulation that prohibits that, to be honest with you.
On the north side, where the sidewalk is?
Yeah, between the sidewalk and the road.
Oh, no. That was one of the things we fought so hard against the sidewalks for, because we said it would turn into a parking lot, and they promised, and it's somewhere in something, that there is no parking on the north side between the sidewalk and the highway.
I mean, I've been under the impression ever since I've been here that nobody's allowed to park there. And I
Right.
can't
Right.
tell you how many times I've seen people being told to move from there because you're not allowed to park there.
I'm on weekends, I see both sides sidewalk right through there.
And it's always been illegal to park between, because
Well, it's illegal
we
to park
said
right
it
away.
would, we said it would become a parking lot, and it would become extremely dangerous for people and kids racing across the street if they parked there. Not to mention, all of the homeowners said, we don't want people parking there.
Sergeant?
I was gonna say illegal.
What the state law says, you can't park within 25 feet of the stop sign. That's state law. Because it blocks the field of vision for entering Highway 98 from any of the side streets. But as far as parking on the state right of way, nothing I know of that's illegal about parking except within 25 foot of the signs, of the stop signs. And as far as from the paved, where the paved portion starts that intersection, it's 25 feet. So as long as they're.
Yes, I mean, I can understand what Lisa's saying because some people are going to park on the sidewalk if you allow them to park on the north side of the road.
Now it's illegal to park on the sidewalk.
It is.
But as far as the grassy portion, as far from the sidewalk to the paved fog line of the roadway, it's gonna be state right of way. The only thing that we can govern is 25 foot into the intersection, unless they park on the concrete sidewalk.
But that would only be on the north side. You would not cite anybody on the south
So
side.
there's no stop signs on the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can remember one of the big arguments was the community wanted signs saying no parking. And Al Cademy was mayor at the time, and he didn't want that many signs. But that was one of the huge arguments, no parking on that side. And somewhere, it's supposed to be written that there's no parking on that side.
Sergeant, is there enough space between the pavement and the sidewalk to park comfortably?
Yes.
In some cases, there's enough for two, because a lot of times in the summer around July, you'll have them double parked.
I've never seen that out.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
there's enough room for one car to park and be safely off the roadway and not on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Thank you.
City Administrator, what's your understanding of the,
I've not seen anything written that prohibits parking on the north side. I'll have to research that to see if there is, but at this point, I'm not aware of it. And that would be in our.
I mean, I just know that I've always heard that. That's what I've always heard.
Because,
I've actually had the police tell me to move my golf cart from over there.
well, so I was going to say, if you notice, the golf carts don't park there. They park on the roads that are perpendicular to 98 as
Right.
opposed to pulling out and parking along between the sidewalk and the highway.
That's,
Right.
right.
I mean, because on the golf carts, it says they cannot be within on a 35 mile per hour zone. Because they can't go past. So once they hit the state right of way, which is the power pole, if they park that golf cart, then they're in violation of state law. And that's why they're parking them prior to the stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
Because that keeps them still on the side street and not into the state right of way.
We actually, I think we need to check on that. And if there isn't anything, then does the city want to do something about it or not? Because if so, then we ought to probably put it in here.
Well, that kind of detail, I think, would go into the land
LDR?
development regulation. And not even, I don't even know if it might even be just a city code issue, because you have a city code outside of the land development regulation.
But can you research that?
Can they park 25 feet from a designated sidewalk?
Are you talking about the golf carts or vehicles?
Vehicles.
As they're fine to park on the north shore or south shore of Highway 98.
But you said of a 25 foot of an intersection.
Right.
So-
Well, you know, when you have, this, let's say, take 7th Street, for instance, where it comes up to the stop sign.
Yes, sir.
You measure from the last pave, where the last portion of that intersection is at the paves, and you go 25 feet over. So if they're 25.1, then they're
Right.
able to park there. And the state comes up with that 25 mark, because they say it gives that driver the distance that he can still see down the paved highway to safely make their left or right turn. So it's 25 feet either side. So when you come to 7th Street, it's 25 feet to your right and then 25 feet to your left.
Yeah. So I was wondering, on the designated sidewalks where the lights are, can they park within 25 feet of those?
Of the pedestrian crossing?
Yes.
They can.
Okay, so they could tuck right up to a pedestrian crossing when the pedestrians are, and that's a designated crossing area.
Right, because it only pertains to the paved intersection.
Okay, interesting, good to know. Thank you.
Learning something.
Yeah, we all are.
Lori, anything?
Nope.
David, I think, unless anybody else says anything, we're good with this, then changes we suggested, and then if you will research that for us on 98, we'll know what to do when we get into the LDR. Okay, today at the city council meeting, Bill was here, Laura and I presented the coastal management element to the city council, because that thing has to be into the state by the 1st of June. And what they're gonna do is take a look at it, and then they're gonna schedule a public hearing, which we will be at to answer any questions the public might have or the council might have. And I would, of course, that will be scheduled, along with normal city council meetings. So if you have an interest in attending that, we could use your input too, if they've got questions on that thing.
It'll be May 8th at 6 p.m.
May 8th?
At 6?
So I would encourage you to attend that meeting also. One of the other things I talked to the council about was requesting a grant for us to start working on the LDR once we get done with this. And do you know what we can expect along those lines? Is that coming out of your office?
Deadline is May the 8th or 9th, one of those 2 days. And I've already gotten the scope of services for Valera to include in that application, so I'll get the application in for that money in time.
And how long do you think that would take before we see some?
Well, it starts June 1, so sometimes they let you know in June, July.
Okay, well, you just keep me on top of that. And then. Okay, one of the other things I talked to council about, I had a goal of the 1st of June of having everything complete and then giving that over to the council to go ahead and take a look at and then take what action they have and turn it into the state. And I think we've only got 2 elements left, is that correct?
We have the capital improvements element, which part of what was going on today at the city council was an update to that, so I'll get that and incorporate that into the capital improvements element. And there's a concurrency section and there's an administrative section. I was talking to Mel and I said, I think if I were you, I wouldn't touch the concurrency section until, I think you should delete it from the plan. I think it should be in the code, but until you're ready to amend the code and insert it into the code, I wouldn't take it out of the plan. So
The
I
code meaning the LDRs.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes,
Okay.
LDRs, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot, I mean, we could do it in one meeting, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna
That was my
say,
next
you know,
thing.
how long would it take you to get all the information together for
When
us
is
to
the
do
next
this?
meeting for this group?
Would be June
1st.
1st. June 1st at
Certainly,
6.
Yeah, no problem.
The only thing about it is, do you know whether or not we're gonna have any normal
June
business?
1st or May 1st?
Next Tuesday.
Oh,
May
May
1st.
1st, May 1st, I'm sorry.
Yeah, today is the next meeting. That's probably too quick to get it all done.
When do you need it by? Thursday? Yeah, I'm booked
Friday.
solid tomorrow, so I can't do it.
Okay, do we have any business scheduled?
We have no business scheduled for that date anyway, so we can cancel it and maybe do it later. in the
Back it
month if
off,
you
yeah,
want.
back it off a couple weeks.
Right.
So what would be 2 weeks from then in May? What date? would it-
15th.
Does the council, that's their evening meeting, right?
So they're on the,
Eight. Yeah.
they're meeting on the 8th, right? That's the meet, and
Okay,
then
so,
the evening of the 15th, I'm in another city at their meeting.
okay.
If you want to meet on the 22nd, I'm open.
I'm not available. That doesn't mean we can't do it just because I'm not available. How about everybody else?
I'm good on the 15th or the 22nd.
Me too.
And we can, I mean, it doesn't have to be a Tuesday if it's not the regularly scheduled meeting, just depending on when the Civic Center is available, we can do it
Yep.
any day. Why don't you give some days that you're available?
I'm available on the 21st, which is a Monday, the 22nd, which is a Tuesday, the 20, why do I have that on my calendar? The 29th, I think that's the day after Memorial Day, I don't know if that's a bad day. The 30th,
Sooner the better, in case we have to have
I
two.
could
Actually, I could leave a day.
I could do the
later,
14th.
22nd.
Do it the 14th?
a Monday.
I mean, actually, I can delay my trip a day, and actually, we could do it on the 22nd, if that way you would feel more comfortable getting more time to put all that together.
Well, if we did it on the 14th and I got you the materials by the 8th, Mel, would that be enough time?
Yeah, plenty of time.
We could do
Okay.
it on the
We'll
14th.
have a day every time,
1800?
When's the Civic Center open?
It's not,
all over the place. Depends on the day first. And then
okay,
14th.
14th at 6,
Anytime after 11.
okay.
1 o'clock?
Works for me.
Anything after 11.
Okay.
14th at 1.
14th at-
Is that in addition to May 1st or in lieu of?
No meeting.
Well,
In
right now,
lieu of?
we don't have any business on the May the 1st, so that would be,
Okay, so that's the May meeting would be the 14th?
that would be the, yeah,
At
that's
1.
correct.
Okay.
And hopefully that would be, that would allow us to finish it up, and then
Yep.
how long would it take you to get each of us a clean copy of everything and then a marked up copy?
Well, it's already done up to today's point, so not long.
So I think we ought to schedule another meeting to go over everything before we actually turn it over to the council.
Okay.
And could we do that on the 22nd or the 21st? Is a week enough time to do that?
Yes.
Because we should have
Because it's
gone
already
over all
done
this
up
stuff.
to this point.
We should have gone over
Sure.
everything up to this point, so.
Yeah.
One final look before we,
Yeah,
Sure.
before we give it to the
Yep.
council. So we'll go on the 21st at 1300? Can we do that?
First,
21st at
so
1300?
the 14th and 21st.
Correct. Is that, are they available, Adrian?
21st is fine?
14 and 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
What
At
time?
what time on the 20th?
1300, okay, and the 14th would be the last three elements, and 21st would be just taking everything we've got. And could we get the city to publish that, maximum participation by the public, if at all possible, because this is where we're gonna put everything together for the comp
Put it
plan.
on the website,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Mhm. Okay,
So just to be sure, the meeting on the 21st is at what time?
1301.
Okay. Okay.
you don't mind not having night meetings, do you, Mel?
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's basically all we've got. You got anything, Mel?
I had nothing.
Okay, anybody on the board have any further business? The public have any business to bring forward? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.